Good morning and welcome to West Church. Merry Christmas. I hope that you had a great Christmas week and Christmas Eve and Christmas Day and were able to do something fun and meaningful to celebrate the season. I am grateful for the staff that are here this Sunday after Christmas. It's usually a low-key Sunday for us in the church, but not this year. And so we are just so grateful and so blessed to have such an amazing staff team. So a huge thank you and shout out to them and our volunteers that show up and make every Sunday happen. If you are newer to the West community, we extend a very special and warm welcome to you. We invite you to text the word welcome to the number you see on the screen, or I'll read the number in just a second. But if you'll text the word welcome to us, we would like to send you a gift and just say thank you for choosing West Church. There's lots of things you could be doing with your time right now, so thank you for checking us out. If you would text welcome to 704-343-8955. That's the number, 704-343-8955. We had our parking lot Christmas Eve worship service a couple of days ago. We had 5 new first-time guests text in. That was so exciting. So we love to know that you are a part of the West community. We're really excited for next Sunday. We are going to start a new message series that is not what I said. And hopefully this will be a message series that helps you work on your relationships in the new year. I think as we continue in this time of COVID and all that kind of stuff, our relationships are really important. And I keep hearing from folks that we all just seem a little on edge lately. And so we decided to do a message series around temperaments, what our personalities are like, better understanding ourselves, so that then we can understand how we communicate with each other. Have you ever had that happen, like you realize what you are saying is not what they're hearing? I think I'm the poster child for that. And so like in my relationships, I'm saying I say a lot of things, sadly, for those who love me, but I'm saying a lot, and then they're like, you know what, this is how I'm hearing you. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So that self-awareness is so important. So I really think if we will go through this series together, it's based on a book by a psychologist, and it came out of North Point Community Church with Andy Stanley. We're so excited about offering it. On Wednesday online, we're going to have a little survey test that you will take and get your temperament, and then we're going to explore all the different temperaments in the weeks ahead and what this has to do with our faith. So I really hope you will check us out in the weeks ahead. This morning, I am so excited. Usually to end the year, we have a West person share a testimony, and this year is no different. We are blessed by our own Dawn Lynch. She is on staff at West. I think she's going to talk about that a little in her testimony, how that grew into becoming a full-time ministry position. She is very much a minister and ministers with us here. So in a few minutes, we are going to do that. But before that, I wanted to share with you, Brad and Josh captured some video from Thursday night, I guess it was. And it was just such a powerful experience. And thank you for the feedback that you all have given and that you shared with the staff. That really has meant a lot. I can't tell you the hours that the staff and volunteers put into making it happen. It absolutely was, I think, for us, the most stressful year ever. We wanted it to be meaningful. We'd never done it before. The weather did not seem to be cooperating. I mean, at one point, the huge tent was shaking and ladders were flying because there were gale force winds. It was just insane. And then it actually came together and was just a beautiful experience. So we wanted to share with you a couple of highlights from that evening. The first is the cars playing Jingle Bells with their car horns together. Some of us learned that we are rhythmically challenged when it comes to playing our car horns, but it was just a fun experience. So we wanted you to see it from our perspective. Take a look. Jingle bells, such a fun way to be and feel connected. I heard from many of you say that even though you were there in your cars and never got out to mingle with people, that you really did feel like you were a part of a worshiping community, that you were connected. And we are so glad. I felt just the weirdest ever. Like, I thought preaching to a camera was hard every week. I'm gonna tell you, I would take this 1,000 times over preaching in a parking lot. I felt like I was talking to myself, because I was. I mean, there was like nobody, but you all were there, and that sense of peace that we hope comes at the end of every Christmas Eve worship service, the peace and the hope, the joy and the love that Christmas is all about. Believe it or not, I mean, at the end of the evening, despite the rain and the just challenging conditions, at the end, it was just this powerful, powerful presence as the worship team led us in Silent Night, and you in your cars held up your glow sticks or your fiber optic wands and your candles, and we wanted you to take a look at that. I still get goosebumps. Our first preview service ever as a new church was on Christmas Eve 11 years ago. And, you know, that evening we had a bunch of supporters come in from Williamson's Chapel. We had some people from the community, and we had our launch team together. And then, you know, the next year happened, and we were on our own. And I remember that evening on Christmas Eve being a little scared that who's going to want to go worship in a high school auditorium on the high holy night. Like, I missed my home church of Williamson's Chapel with the beautiful stained glass and the columns and the pews and the organ and all that stuff. I missed it, and I thought, nobody's going to want to come to our little podunk worship service in an auditorium. We don't even have signs. And you came, and you've been coming ever since. When COVID started and we had to stop worshiping together in person, we as your staff team lost several nights of sleep wondering how will we make it through. And just the other night at the end, when there were over 110 cars and we had to postpone starting the service because the cars kept coming. And then you all held up your lights and your wands, and we also still had another worshiping community in our live stream online service. It was just a powerful reminder that when we do unite together in a community, that God is with us and God sustains us. And so we are excited going into 2021 that we can continue being the church and finding and exploring ways to go and do and be that. So thank you for making West your church home. Thank you for making this a priority with your prayers and your financial support. It has gotten us from there to here, and we're excited about the days ahead. So thank you. So we are concluding our message series, Unmasking Faith, and we are really privileged to have Dawn with us to share her personal testimony, how she has unmasked faith in her life. She has admitted that public speaking makes her nervous. So I just ask that you throw up some prayers for Dawn this morning. She is such a gift to us here at the West staff. And we did not coordinate our outfits, but I told her that I felt like we should start our own West Tiger King episode with the animal prints going on. But we're really lucky to have Dawn on staff, and I know that you're going to be blessed by hearing her share this morning. So Dawn, if you would just tell all of our folks out there just some stuff about you, just introduce yourself.
Okay. Sure. Thanks for having me. It's a privilege to be here. My name is Dawn Lynch. I am on staff, as Andrea said, at West. I'm the Communications and Connections Catalyst. I have 4 amazing children who inspire me daily with their courage and wisdom, truly help me to live into being the best me possible. And I enjoy yoga. I teach yoga for West on Friday evenings at our community yoga. And I guess that's about it.
So, Dawn, I know personally your story, but one of the things that I want us to communicate with everybody today is your story, where God has been throughout your story, and how God has revealed God's self to you throughout your experience. So the first thing I'd like for you to tell everyone this morning and talk about is, when have you in your life felt far from God?
Yeah, well, I think when you first asked me or told me this would be one of the questions, I thought, God, God's always been with me. I haven't felt far from God. But then I started to think about it, and I'm like, wow, the list just grew longer and longer. But actually, I discovered that it was in my pain and my anger from my pain that really prevented me from being able to see how God was already at work in my previous situations. Yeah. So I had wonderful parents and a beautiful childhood. For whatever reasons, they separated and divorced, and that brought pain to me early on as a child. And then I married at a very young age, at 21, and my husband battled with his own bouts with anger, which led to addiction and abusive personality. So there was a lot of pain in that marriage and that time together. And then just when things felt like they were finally starting to fall back together after the brokenness of my marriage, I met this wonderful man who truly showed me what love should feel like and look like through his example. And then he was tragically killed in a boating accident. So that just really left me feeling lonely and sad and afraid and somewhat unworthy of happiness.
I'll never forget the morning that you found out that Walter had been in a boating accident. I think your mom texted me, actually, and I came to be with you. And I don't know if you will see this in yourself, but it's one of the things that I have appreciated about you from the beginning, is even in your pain, you embody strength. Your world had just collapsed suddenly, and your children, loved Walter, and he was such an important part in their lives too. And it was just inspiring. You are inspiring, because that morning I just watched you hold it all together. You were immersed in your own grief and shock.
Yeah.
But yet, your youngest needed breakfast. And I remember you just getting it all together long enough to make that happen. And I think that's really when our journey together started more intentionally. You were coming to West some after your divorce, and then Walter started coming to West, and y'all were getting involved together. But so, despite feeling far from God, you embodied that connection. So can you speak to us a little about where you have seen God, like even in those difficult times? Where have you seen God?
Yeah, sure. Looking back now, I can see so much more clearly, not through the trauma lens and the pain and all the anger that I was so much consumed by those feelings and emotions then, but looking back, I can see how God was at work even in those times. And so I did when I was married. I randomly attended West. My mother has been a part of the West worshiping faith community since the launch of West, and we loved attending West with her. She loved the grandkids coming and being able to be around and meet and see all of her friends. And like, I really felt connected every time I was in that auditorium, and the messages, they just really spoke to me. I could feel God's presence, and I loved that. And it was in such a time where there was so much turmoil in my life that I wasn't even really confronting myself. It was just kind of, grin and bear it and do what you can do to get through. Just kind of survival mode, I guess I was in. So that presence and that warmth that I felt there at West was always so present. And I really wrestled with leaving my marriage. I knew that divorce was a sin or frowned upon, and two, I knew my struggles that I had when my parents separated, and I didn't want my kids to have to go through that. So even though I knew those things, it became unsafe for us to stay. And it was through actually my mom was connected at West, and in one of her small groups, a friend had led her. She opened up to the friend about the situation and how it was unsafe for the kids and I. And they gave her a name of a counselor who was able to see me and give me the knowledge and the courage that I needed to leave and to keep the kids and I safe. And so I really feel like God moved in and through all that, and I didn't even realize at the time what was happening. I just felt, bad for divorcing.
Right.
And so yeah, and then so then I began, after leaving the marriage, I began attending West more often. My mom got me plugged into a women's small group that met at the Old West office, and I could just remember that being a safe place for me and a place where I could, get outside of what was going on in life and really dive in and grow spiritually, kind of not have to think about everything that was going on. So that was really great for me. And then starting to serve. Brad had asked me to serve on the tech team. I know nothing about tech or worship arts, but he's like, all you have to do is push a button. He made it so simple, sounds so easy. And that really gave me purpose and meaning and a reason to be at West more frequently. And then the kids got plugged into Wired and Sparked. Merrick was young enough to be in Sparked then. So God was really lifting us up and surrounding us through the people at West, through serving, and the small groups. So those things were pivotal, I think, for our growth and survival and just feeling His love.
Is there a time that you remember? And I'm just going to warn you, I'm off script. Dawn and I walked through the questions one day this week, and she is so articulate, so don't panic. I'm going off script just a little. But you shared about, your former husband battling addiction and wrestling with his own demons, and as he would wrestle with those, he would take it out on you and the kids, and so you had to leave, and your fear in leaving, and then you shared about just when you felt like your life was great and back together, it fell apart again with the death of Walter. And you began your words this morning with us by saying that you felt when I first said, when have you felt far from God, you were like, oh, I really haven't. I've always known that God was there. But then when you started thinking about it, you're like, oh my gosh, I felt disconnected or removed or far from God here, 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 and here. And I think that is how we all process and journey through our faith. When we're in these good times, we want to think, oh yeah, I'm so connected and totally feel God. And we don't want to even admit sometimes that we don't, because I think we feel guilty. Mm-hmm. We're made to feel guilty, like if we're not the perfect Christian or perfect follower of Jesus. But Jesus wrestled with feeling far from God. So I think if Jesus can wrestle with it, we can too. And I think that's such a powerful part of your story, that you did feel not okay and not in love with God, and you journeyed through that, and here you are, this leader of people in faith. Was there a turning point in any of those times that you remember, like just realizing you needed God?
Yeah, so there were many. There were many times. A lot of it came with a feeling of pressure, like I had to have this all figured out, or, doubt and fear of, oh my gosh, there's no way that I can do this. There's no way that I can leave this situation, because I have 4 children. I'm not going to be able to raise them on my own. And whenever I felt that pressure, I can just remember. And for me, it was a physical act of just falling, just caving to my knees sometimes. Sometimes I would just throw my hands up and be like, God, I don't have the answers. I don't know what to do here. And he would always meet me there. I was not surprised, but I wasn't expecting it either, but just this kind of warmth that surrounded me and held me, and I knew that kind of lifted me and picked me up and carried me, and I knew, and through the kindness of other people, God was always present in the people around me. And definitely when I came into the West faith community, they just were so welcoming. Even in my brokenness, they just loved me and accepted me and made me feel whole. I didn't feel so broken. I can remember when Walter died, I was newer to the West. This was before I was on staff at West. I was newer to the West faith community, and there were people who showed up, strangers at the time. I did not know them, with meals and food, and they would stay and talk, and it was just so inspiring to me, and to feel that love from them.
As the pastor, there are lots of times actually, that I sort of feel like a parent to the West, like the mom or something of the West Church. And I'll never forget at the celebration of life for Walter, looking out, the church was packed and the balcony was packed and all this stuff, and there were West people there. And I was so proud of them for showing up. Mm-hmm. The Christmas Eve message was about God with skin on, and that in our times of fear and anxiety, we want someone with some skin, and we believe that was Jesus. Mm-hmm. We also believe we are that now for each other in the name of Christ. And so it was a moving moment to see those folks show up for you. Mm-hmm. I think one of the things we can learn from Dawn, all of us, is to hear her tell us about the power of prayer. So Dawn surrendered herself to her pain and her anxiety and worry and just threw up your hands or physically, fell to your knees in a posture of prayer and just said, "All right, God, here I am." And I hope you heard what she said, that in those moments of absolute brokenness, you felt this warmth just sustain you. Please don't ever underestimate the power of prayer, both in self-surrender, but also in praying for each other. There is something that happens in the universe with some energy that when we pray for one another, that energy surrounds them and lifts them up when they need it. And it's just a real thing. We don't have to understand it, but it is very real. So please don't ever underestimate when someone tells you they're praying for you or praying for each other. It really does. It makes a difference.
It's how I'm able to be up here today and have the nerves at bay. Andrea checked on me this morning and said, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "For now, the nerves are fine," but I had asked. You said in a message, I don't even know if you'll remember this, a couple weeks ago, but reach out. Do you ask people to pray for you? And so I did, because I knew that I do not speak publicly well because my nerves do consume me. And so I just prayed first for God to work in and through me. And then I asked some close friends to pray through me because I knew that if they were praying, then that would sustain me and give me the peace that I needed to be able to let God speak his message through me.
Yeah. The power of prayer is a real thing. I would never know today. I mean, seriously, like, I anticipated your nervousness and stuff, and you are 100% different than what I thought you would be. You're so calm and collected right now, and if you had told me 6 months ago when we talked about doing this, you're like, "I can't talk in front of people." I'm like, "Yes, you can. You do it all the time." You really, I mean, this is living proof that prayer works and prayer matters. How has God transformed you?
Yeah, so in many ways, throughout the pain and anger and everything I was dealing with, just truly the love and kindness and generosity of other people. Being a single mom prevents its challenges, and starting all over, truly, I started all over with very little. I left with very little. And the first year, I will never forget, I left my marital home right the week before Thanksgiving, and it was Christmas time, and we were recipients of Ding Dong Ditch, the kids and I. We were living with my mom at the time, and I was just so overwhelmed with joy seeing the smile on their faces because it had been like hell. I mean, it felt like we were going through.
Well, you were.
Hell.
I mean, you were. It's okay to say that.
So just, again, people that we didn't even truly know yet had just surrounded us with so much love. And to see the kids' faces light up and be excited, like, wow, it's not even Christmas yet, because I let them open the gifts when they were dropped on the front porch. I didn't wait till Christmas, and I didn't even know about Ding Dong Ditch and the mission and what it was. So that truly has transformed me. It has made me want to become a generous person, and to learn finances. I don't enjoy math. I actually kind of run from it. Shut down. I go into shutdown mode when it comes to finances, but I am starting to learn better ways how to be a better steward of my money. And then too, falling in love with the mission and vision at West and the ministries and the missions. I began tithing because I believe in what we're doing here and the difference that we're making in the community. There's just power, and that love that you showed me made me want to be a generous, loving person in return. and also through serving. I remember it was Macy, my oldest. I don't remember how old she was at the time, maybe 9 or 10 years old. The youth had a serve day at Bell Park in Mooresville. And I can remember the people that we met there that day and the other youth that she formed, connections with. And just that serving piece really got me outside of what was going on in my situation, and it gave me a different perspective. And that truly was very transformational for me. And then to just learning and growing spiritually deeper through various small groups that I've been a part of now at West, completely transformational for me. Just that deeper understanding and connection, and how to connect with that peace when I feel anxious and I feel worried. Having those skills to know what to do when the painful times arise has been transformational for me. Instead of going to a place of triggered trauma, I can meditate and go inward, or do yoga and express it and get it out of my body. So that's truly. And then too, therapy. West is a proponent of therapy, so it's never been anything that I've had to be ashamed of or hide from. It was pivotal in the early days of my suffering, and still today very helpful in moving forward.
As we were talking about and getting ready for today, we talk about God doesn't make bad things happen to us. Like, God did not take Walter from you. God did not put you in a relationship so that you would go through those hurdles with your marriage only to make you stronger. Like, we just don't, that's not our approach to faith and understanding of God. We believe that we have free will, we make choices, everybody else makes choices too, and our choices interact with each other. And sometimes bad things happen to really good people. It's just the way it happens. But we do believe that God works in and through all things. And we read in Scripture that God uses all things for good, regardless of how tragic and bad they may be. God uses all things for good. And so I'd like for you to talk to us about God's ironic timing.
So yeah, I was at one time living in a constant state of fear, and that fear caused paralysis, like real physical paralysis for me. I couldn't get outside of my own pain and grief and worry if I could be enough and figure it out on my own. And being hurt again too. I thought that having those fears in place would protect me from being hurt again, but I learn that it's actually in tearing down the walls and learning how to be vulnerable and setting healthy boundaries and trusting and relying on God and not my own ability and understanding. So after leaving my marriage, I was diagnosed with PTSD, and really I was very triggered. Co-parenting was difficult because every time I would see or talk to him, I would go into this spiral, and that fear and that paralysis were very real. So I struggled to be able to physically get outside of that, mentally get outside of that. And so a few months before, my ex is in recovery now, and a few months before he went into recovery, I learned of a therapy, EMDR, that helps trauma patients heal from their trauma. So I just think the ironic timing of it, like the kids and I needed that time and that space, and he was also going through his own recovery. So it was this beautiful healing for all people, even though it was happening in separate ways and separate situations. It was exactly what we needed. I needed space from that, and God provided a way. So it's allowed me and the kids a place to heal.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Other instances of God's ironic timing in your life?
I'm sure there are. I can't think of one specifically right now.
Tell us about your journey into employment, into ministry, God's call on your life.
Oh, yeah. So that was definitely an ironic timing.
I was trying to get us
You
there.
know me well. Thank you. She told me that she would not leave me.
I won't leave you hanging.
I was afraid that my mind would just go blank and I would just be sitting here.
Is one of the advantages of being able to talk a whole lot. I can get us to somewhere sometime.
So I was, like I mentioned, very broken and afraid and paralyzed by those fears. So I prayed a lot. I knew that the people that I would be around would be important and very pivotal in my healing journey. And so I prayed for the right people to come into my life, for the right position and job, because I was a stay-at-home mom and working part-time in a preschool. As a preschool teacher, so making very little, but now I had to sustain a household on my own, and I feared looking for employment, and I just prayed, though. Even in my fear, I prayed for God to send the right people. Someone from West had reached out and asked, I came in as a part-time with the Spark, and then
our preschool.
Yeah, the preschool ministry. And that was right after Walter had died. And I didn't know how much I needed that purpose and the staff that surrounded me and the faith community that I just got deeper immersed into. That was very pivotal and ironic timing because it was exactly what I needed. And then for the full-time position, just praying, God, lead me to the right people and places. And you had reached out to me and said, hey, I don't even know if you're looking for a job, but we have a position for, I actually came on as Andrea's assistant full-time. And yeah, that was right as I was moving into my first home with the kids and I. So it was just perfect timing how it all worked out and all the pieces started to come together.
Yeah. I mean, I think, had volunteered some in Spark, and the leadership team saw such gifts in you. They're like, and we had this need, for someone to help us coordinate our preschool ministry. And the interesting thing that from my seat, that I've seen over the last, 5-6 years? How long have you been?
It'll be 5 years in February.
Wow. On staff it did start 5 hours a week?
Yes.
And that started from a volunteer position. And so then we hired you for 5 hours a week. And then we just, because we are a newer church, as we have grown, we needed structure and different positions at different times. And so then we did see a need, I just needed some help. And they were like, well, who do you see? Who do you think? And I'm like, well, Dawn has this keen sense of organization, which I do not. And so could we talk about that? And they're like, yeah. So you became my assistant, and that was much needed for that season. And that was when you became full-time, right? But then we had a huge void in some of our other ministries, and it just seemed like wherever there was a void, you morphed into meeting that need. And you just kept growing. And now you are, you are a face, one of the key faces of West. And you lead a church. You lead Yoga Church. And you are their pastor. and you are so gifted, and you have allowed God to use you in so many ways. I can just see the way you've grown, and you inspire me to be a better leader and better pastor. And so thank you for letting God use you. Thank you for being willing to follow that call. And we are richer for it. And everybody that comes in contact with you leaves blessed. And they share that, they communicate that with me, and I hope with you as well.
Yes.
Is there anything else you want to share with us today?
I just think just go all in. Just leap through your fears and get plugged in, get connected. If you're not, it is transformational, and it will be the hope and love and peace that you need to sustain you in and through all things, the good and the bad things. And thank you. Thank you for being a community that accepted me and my brokenness, that offered me a safe place for my kids and I to feel welcome and healed, and just for your extravagant love and generosity. It is inspiring.
Good. Dawn has some verses that are her foundational verses that we wanted to share with you this morning. I'll ask Dawn to read them to you.
Psalm 55:22. Pile your troubles on God's shoulders. He'll carry your load. He'll help you out. He'll never let good people topple into ruin. Philippians 4:6. Don't fret or worry. Instead of worrying, pray. Let petitions and praises shape your worries into prayers, letting God know your concerns. Before you know it, a sense of God's wholeness, everything coming together for good, will come and settle you down. It's wonderful what happens when Christ displaces worry at the center of your life.
Will you pray with us? Gracious God, we give you thanks that we can stand here with Dawn and see all the ways that you have been at work in her life amidst the trauma that she has lived through and the most horrific of circumstances. God, you were and are always there, and you have carried Dawn when she needed that, and you have pushed Dawn into places as she has sought your guidance, and you have nudged her. You have been visible to her through the people in the West community and beyond, and you have just allowed us to be in this journey of faith together, and we are grateful for that. We are grateful for the message of hope that she shares with us as she unmasks her faith. We are grateful for her family and her kids, and we just ask that you continue to surround them all with your love, your protection, and your peace as they go through their days ahead and as they celebrate new places and stations in life. God, thank you for that. We ask that you work in all of us in the way that you work in Dawn, especially as we encounter a new year. May we be a people of wholeness and allow you to use our brokenness so that we may be your light for a world that is in need of some hope. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. So one of the things we do each week that we are separated from you is at some point in the worship service, Dawn or Lindsay share the names of you with us. We read your names aloud. And just now, Lindsay shared out loud the comments that you wrote to Dawn, and so Dawn was moved to tears. She has also told me she is out of words, so I'm not to ask her to talk anymore. So I'm just going to say that instead of asking her to. She's like, I am out of words. But Dawn, we are blessed, and please know this, folks, the words that you share with the staff, especially now that we are separated, when you write them or text them or send them a card, or the gifts that you left them over the last couple of weeks from the Secret Santas, it makes a difference in their lives. Salaries in any job, I'm sure, can always be better, But church staff, like one of our new leaders said, I'm just always amazed when I learn what church staff make for the hours that they work. And like, you know, in a time and season that lots of other people had vacation this week and had days off, it was their busiest time, and the hours and loss of sleep, etc. They do a lot. They are so selfless, this team that we have right now, and we are blessed by them. So thank you for the words that you typed to Dawn. Thank you for the words that you share with all of our staff. It matters. Your words matter. Your appreciation matters, because they are all feeling and living out a calling, just as many of you are, as you help us lead. And so we are grateful. I wanted to say a thank you for the Ding Dong Ditch. I did not know that. I did not know that you all were recipients. If I knew it at the time, I've forgotten. But the fact that you shared that as a way that it transformed you. West community, I want you to know that by giving of your tithes and your offerings, you help us do Ding Dong Ditch. And you also adopted, I believe, 71 people this year. And Tammy and Beth and Tanya and Beth shared how generous you all were with the gifts. Like, they didn't have to subsidize anything. You all just went above and beyond, like you always do. And we are blessed to be your staff team and to be your ministers. And thank you for making that many people's Christmas bright. You hear how it matters. And so thank you. As we get ready to usher in a new year, and as we are all ready for this old year to end, may we be mindful of knowing that we all can unmask our faith and find the hope and the love in and through all things. God does unite us all together, and that is the power of a worshiping community. So thank you. Happy New Year.
Happy New
Go
Year.
in peace.